Hello, you guys, Ligira Moon Goddess, and today we are going to be discussing the most powerful spells utilize your intuition. So, let's get into it for today. So, the most powerful spells utilize your intuition. What do I mean by this? When you're creating your own spells, the most powerful thing you have is your own intuition. And with that being said, how can you grow your intuition? How do you listen to your intuition? When a lot of people, when they're first starting off in magic and they start creating their own spells or what have you, a lot of times beginners will tend to buy different spell books created by other people, which is fine. You have to have some sort of starting point. But the thing that I have learned from practicing magic myself, the most effective and the most powerful spells are the ones that you create on your own. So, with that being said, how do you get to a point where you're able to trust your own intuition and create your own spells? First of all, the more magic you practice, the better you're going to get at it. So it's like anything else. It's like, learning how to ride a bike, learning how to draw. The more you do it and the more you practice, the more you're going to get more comfortable doing it and the more you should be improving. So, trusting your own intuition when you're creating your own spells. So, with that being said, a good thing, and this is really helpful when you're first, if you're first starting off creating your own spells, keep a spell book. Keep a spell book. Write down the types of spells that you are creating. So, like for example, let's say you're trying to create a love spell. You're writing down, okay, I'm doing a love spell. These are the herbs that I use. These are the oils that I use. I use this type of stone. And you're writing down everything that you use in the spell. You want to do this because if you want to get better at creating your own spells, you then have a reference point later on. So, for example, you create a love spell, you perform the love spell, and you're looking back. Let's say the spell didn't go the way you wanted to. Maybe it took too long, maybe the spell didn't work at all, or what have you. If you have it written down in a spell book, you can look back and say, okay, well, I traded the spell, something wasn't working. What if I changed these type of oils that I use? What if I use this type of herb instead of that herb? And when you do this, it's going to, if you do this type of method, you're going to actually improve much faster because you're going back, you're looking at what you did, you're trying to learn and figure out what type of oils to use, what herbs, and this is going to help you improve much faster because you're pinpointing what you need to change and you're approving and fixing whatever it is that you did. So, with that being said, growing your intuition, strengthening your intuition for when you're creating these spells. The more you practice magic, the better you're going to get at it. So, don't be afraid. A lot of people are afraid of, oh, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to use these type of herbs. I don't know what oils I need to have. I don't know what crystals I need. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid. If you don't know, it's a learning process. It's like anything else that you would be learning. It's going to take some time. And you have to learn over time. And eventually, the more you do it, the more that you learn, you're going to figure out how to create powerful spells, effective spells, spells that get you what you want very quickly because you're learning at a fast rate and you're trusting your intuition. You want to get to a point where you're trusting your own intuition. And a lot of people, that may be difficult for them in the beginning because they just don't know what to do. But trust me, you're going to figure out how to listen to your intuition. So, listening and strengthening your intuition. The more you practice magic, the more comfortable you get at it. And when you're creating different spells, when you're doing magic, you're going to become more confident. You're going to become more confident because you're creating different spells. And when you keep creating different spells, you're going to start seeing results, especially when you do your first couple of spells and you realize, oh, I actually did this spell and it worked. That's going to grow your confidence. You're going to become more confident in yourself because it's like, oh, you know what? I can do this. I figured out how to do this type of spell. I use these types of herbs. These type of herbs are good for, trust. These herbs are good for love. I did this type of spell. This is good for a knowledge spell. You're going to figure out what to use, what type of oils to use, what type of herbs to use, what type of crystals you should be using, and it's going to become more natural to you. So, what will happen the more you practice magic, especially when it comes to spell work, the more you practice at it, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to improve, and the better you're going to get at it. And this is going to strengthen your intuition. You're going to be able to trust yourself. You want to get to a point, especially if you're someone who you're someone and you're thinking about, like some people are professional readers for people, some people do magic for other people, and they do this on a professional level. This is going to help you become more confident in yourself to where you're comfortable with, oh, you know what, I can do this. I am able to create these spells. I am able to do magic. And you're going to be more confident in yourself. You're not going to be, someone who's indecisive. You're not going to be someone who's, oh, I don't know if this spell worked. I don't know what I'm doing. Da, da, da. No, it's not going to be like that. Because you've gotten to a point where you can trust your own intuition. You can listen to your intuition for guidance. And sometimes, especially when your intuition kicks in, because a lot of people, there is with certain herbs and oils, they have certain correspondences, and most people use those types of herbs and oils for specific correspondences. But sometimes, if you're listening to your intuition, sometimes your intuition will kick in and say, "Oh, well, instead of this, what if I use this herb instead?" And it may not be necessarily an herb that you would normally think to use, but sometimes when you listen to your intuition in that moment, you're going to realize, oh, I see, you know what, this actually was helpful for the spell that I did. I used this herb instead of that herb, and you know what, I think that was a factor as to why why the spell actually worked so quickly. So, sometimes you just have to listen to your intuition. And don't be afraid to take risks. When you're doing spells, the fun part about spells is really the creation part. Figuring out, it's kind of almost like you're in a way like you're a scientist or something. You're figuring out, what it's almost like you're figuring out what ingredients, what chemicals, if you were a scientist, what should you be using to create this spell. That's the fun part. You're creating. You're creating from scratch. You're creating listening to your intuition. You're creating listening to your mind. So, with that being said, that you listen to your intuition because you may not think to use that herb or use that oil, and that just may be what you need to use. Even though it's not something common that most people would use, it may just be what you need to use for that particular spell. So, don't be afraid to listen to your intuition. You have your intuition for a reason. You have it for a reason. It's telling you to use something. It's telling you to do something. Listen to it. Because a lot of the times, and I've spoken from experience, the times where I didn't listen to my intuition in general, whether it's spell work or just general life, the times I didn't listen to my intuition are the times that I regretted it. So, listen to your intuition. It's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. It's trying to help you. It's trying to guide you. It's trying to get you in the right direction. So, with that being said, do not be afraid to listen to your own intuition. You have it for a reason. and strengthen your intuition. Build trust in yourself. You can even push yourself, try to create different spells. You can create different spells for different situations, whether it's some financial, whether it's romance, whether it's a knowledge spell. You can create spells for a variety of things if you really think about it. So, don't be afraid to push yourself to create different spells. So, with that being said, that is all I have for this one, and I will check you guys later in the next one. Bye-bye.